Here's another method that teachers always go on and on about that are really important to fractions. So the lowest common multiple is basically looking for the smallest number that two other numbers will fit into. So for example, if I had 12, for instance, and what should we do? Brain's gone dead. 30. Yep. Okay. Right. So what we're going to do is we could either count up in the 12 times table and also the 30 times table until we get the number that they both fit into. So we're looking for a common multiple of both of them. And because it will hopefully be the first one we come across, that means it will be the smallest one or the lowest. I'm going to show you another way of doing it using prime factor decomposition, because you might be asked to do it algebraically. So 12 I know is 3 times 4. This breaks down into 2 and 2. So I end up with 2 times 2 times 3. 30 I know is 3 times 10. So I know that that's going to be 2 and 5. So I end up with 2 times 3 times 5. So now I'm going to write them back out. 2 times 2 times 3 and 2 times 3 times 5. Now what I'm going to do is actually find my highest common factor. So you need to have watched the previous video. So what you're going to do is, for everyone up here, you're going to see if you can find a pair for it down here. So 2 is a common factor. This one, though, doesn't have a pair. So I'm just going to gently cross it through. But 3 is a common factor. It has a pair up top and bottom. So that's okay. And then 5 doesn't have a pair. So these two are lonely. But this 2 has a pair and this 3 has a pair. So 2 times 3, my highest common factor is 6. So that tells me that 6 will go into both 12 and 30. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my highest common factor and I'm going to multiply it by the numbers that are crossed through, so the numbers that don't have a pair. So I'm going to do my highest common factor times by my non-paired numbers, okay, or my non-paired primes technically. So 6 times 2 times 5. So 6 times 2 is 12. 12 times 5 equals 60. So this means that my smallest or lowest multiple that's common to both numbers, so the smallest number that both of my two numbers that they've given me that they'll fit into, is 60. So now, as a double check, I could just write them out quickly. 12, 24, 36, 42, no, I'm losing my marble, sorry, 48, 60. Perfect. So I know 60 is definitely in the 12 times table. So 60 is a multiple of 12. And then 30, 60. So 60 is also a multiple of 30. And notice it's the first one, so the smallest or lowest, that I come into contact with. So the easiest way to find the lowest common multiple is to write down the prime factor decompositions of both numbers, work out my highest common factor, and then multiply those by any that don't have a pair. The other way you can also do it, that I really like, and this is a good one if you get confused, is you still have to calculate the highest common factor, which is pretty simple. I know that's 6. Then what you do is you do 12 times 30, so you multiply the two numbers that you have together. So I know that that's going to be 300 plus 60, so that gives me 360. Then what you do is, once you've multiplied them together, you divide by your highest common factor. So we're going to do 360 divided by 6. So 6's won't go into 3. How many 6's go into 36 is 6. How many 6's go into 0 is 60. And that will give you your lowest common multiple. So every time I'd advise you to calculate your highest common factor. And if you look at the playlist, it's the video before this one, how to do it. Then times them together, times the two numbers that you've been given together, and divide by your highest common factor. If you don't like using that method, what you can do is work out your highest common factor and then multiply your highest common factor by any non-paired primes, so the ones that I cross through. Now, why this is so important again is due to fractions. If I'd been given 5 over 12 added to let's say 7 over 30, I can't add them together because they have different denominators. They're cut into different size pieces. So what I need to do is work out my lowest common multiple of 12 and 30 to work out what I could cut both of those fractions into. Now we've already worked out that it's 60, so I'm going to rewrite these as if I'm cutting them into more pieces, so smaller pieces, so I have more of them, so that once they're in the same size base pieces, I can add them together easily. So I know that I have 5 lots, because I worked it out here previously. I have 5 lots of 12 to make 60. So I'm going to multiply both my top and bottom by 5, so it's the same as multiplying by 5 over 5, which gives me 25. And here I've got 2 lots, which is the same as multiplying by 2 over 2. Top and bottom being times by 2, which is 14. So if I now add together 25 and 14 over 60, so 25 plus 14 over 60, I end up with 39 over 60. Now, lots of you and many people that I've taught would immediately go, oh, 39, that's an odd number, that's probably a prime. But remember your check. If you add together 9 and 3, you get 12. If you add together 1 and 2, you get 3. Because when you added your digits together, you eventually got down to 3, I know that both numbers could be divided by 3. So 39 divided by 3 is 13, and 60 divided by 3 is 20. So now I've very quickly made a very complicated question very simple, and I've simplified this sum down to its most simplistic form, which is that 13 over 20 rather than the 39 over 60 I originally had.